Alright, so today I'm going to be going over the Atlas framework and how we operate as a subsidiary. So under Atlas Management Enterprises, we have a subsidiary called Atlas Octus Commercial, and this structures how we operate. So I'm going to go over it, but before that I want to say that we never operate as a fund, right? We had a lesson last year that we learned at the expense of this. We mentioned the word fund in one of our deals, and basically it fucked everything up. We had to return all the funds in the equity pool back to the investors, right? And that broke some trust, and ever since then we could not get the investor pool back together. So that was a really hard lesson. But now we don't mention this word at all. So legally we are not classified as a fund anyway, so there was no reason to even bring up the word. But yes, the first one, it's not a loophole, it's just deliberate legal and strategic decision that allows us to operate more efficiently, if you will. We offer the investors better terms and scale without being basically handcuffed by this tape. Anyways, when you run a fund, there's many things you have to consider legally. So there's licensing requirements, there are annual audits, there are public/private placement fillings. But what was that? Fillings. There are disclosures you have to you report. There are, let me think, custody regulations. There's a bunch more, but these are what comes up to my mind so far. So yeah, do not mention the word fund if you work for us, and yeah, we don't do that anymore. Anyways, what we do instead is that we never present our deals as a fund. Of course, we don't file fund paperwork, so we don't basically bring this to the SEC as a fund. We don't register as a fund manager or a GP, which is a general partner. We do not register as this. Instead, we make this clear that this investment acts like a fund in terms of pooled capital, but we are not legally classified as a fund. We basically pool. One sec, I have a message. We act like a fund in terms of pool capital, right? But it's not legally classified as one. And because of this, we can raise capital through direct relationships with the investors. So say we have a bunch of investors here. Maybe we have like, let's say 40 investors average, right? We can work directly with them. So direct partnership. We don't have to go through like a legal body or something, or middlemen or escrows or some shit. We can just work directly with these people, right? And this basically helps us to have flexibility in our legal documents. Whatever we have to file, we can just say we have direct, or it just goes directly to them. And we can customize deal terms per project. So mainly in Dallas, we have projects, and we can basically, if we have a project, let's say just project one in Dallas, we can customize these terms according to this this investor pool. We don't have to go through a middleman to then delay anything or to rectify stuff with the middleman before it gets sent off to this investor pool. Anyways, there also is a regulation burden that we can avoid while staying compliant without breaking any laws, basically with that. What we use instead is a contract-based investment model, which is the diagram here, this whole thing. Yeah, I want to move my iPad. Okay, so each investor is tied to a specific LLC which owns a specific property. For example, this LLC owns a property in Dallas, this one in Salt Lake City, this one in Raleigh in North Carolina. So that's how these property LLC works, right? And each property LLC has one property, so all the expenses or the overhead is tied to one specific property. It doesn't leak out to the other one, blah blah blah. So say if one gets all the funds removed or bankrupt, if you will, then it does not affect these other ones. It stays in its property LLC, which is really good for control and micromanaging each property. Each return is based solely on the performance of that asset. So all the earnings, the rent, the income from LLC1 stays in LLC1. You know, like with the expenses and overhead, it doesn't leak out. So that's very, very useful. It's transparent, you know, it's specific to that asset, and it's far less encumbered than a fund structure. So why does this matter for investors? There's fewer boundaries, fewer middlemen, and more of their capital going to the deal and not to fund lawyers or people that audit these projects. So as I said, with the middleman, this is Atlas. This is let's do the investor pool again. Right, it goes straight to them, the investors, and it doesn't go to lawyers or auditors. It goes straight to investors, which is really useful and saves so much time and money because there are lawyer fees. There's faster execution on deals because we don't need to prepare a PPM through I don't know how many months. It takes a lot of months, or pass through compliance reviews with the SEC or other governing bodies. What else? A PPM is like a private placement memorandum. I think that's how you pronounce it. It's basically a legal document that's provided to prospective investors when a company offers a private investment opportunity, which is not through a public market. So that PPM will outline everything an investor needs to know before committing their capital, such as details of the investment opportunity, terms of the offering, risks, such and such. Compliance review, as I just said, with SEC, it's just a process where the lawyers and regulatory professionals ensure that all the documentation, like the PPM, aligns with securities laws, such as SEC regulations in the US. There's a lot more detail on that, which I won't go over, but also it's more tailored details. We can negotiate terms based on the investor's position, contribution size, just ignore my rating, and goals. So these tailor metrics in that specific deal of this project. So if we go back here, I'm going to explain briefly how this chart, or what the chart is saying. So this is the investors, this is the investor pool, the one with average 40 people. I say average, it's basically the amount of investors for our first project in Dallas. Just going to use that as an example. And through this, we give a capital to the investment LLC, which is the fund vehicle, which is like the holding LLC, which holds all the investments, holds all the finances. We split this 80-20 average, but sometimes it can be 70-30 depending on the negotiation, depending on the investor pool, etc. And usually we have like a -5 or sometimes -2, which is the acquisition fee. So basically, let's say we have $10 million, right? If we split that 80-20 -5, that is 5% of 10 million, which is 500k. So 500K is what we get, basically me and the team, which is CEO, the board, advisors, and so on. That's our cut immediately just for securing the deal, acquiring these investors, etc. And that is split between the team. For example, if it was just me and Parish, which is our CEO, we will get 250K each. And that's that immediately. Right, which is pretty good. If we go back, so all the holdings from, if I come right, from this LLC, it gets split between all these different property LLCs. And basically this Atlas Master LLC is Atlas Management Enterprises, which is the sponsor, right? Just get that out. This holds basically this is us, right? Like me, the team, CEO, for example, we get 20%, and this is the 80% that goes to the ownership. Oh, so 8% is this way. But all of these profits, the LLC owns 100% from, basically, if we use Dallas as an example, this property LLC, everything that is earned from the rent income, every overhead, etc., all of it goes back to this holding account. I don't know why you can hear water. That's probably from a shower. Sorry, I don't know if you can hear that. And yeah, anyways, this is like a good example of a master LLC and a sub LLC mechanic, right? This whole framework, it's designed to protect legally, sorry, and operate efficiently. There is very clear on the financials. The setup allows us to scale very confidently. It isolates all the risks, offers investments, a transparent investment to investors, and a direct link to the real estate that they're helping to fund without legal burdens of typical fund structures like a hedge fund, for example, right? They can see every single financial involved in these properties. So transparency helps, it sells very much. Sorry, stay hydrated. The Master LLC, which is Atlas, we serve as the main engine. It's co-owned by the managing principals, which is Parish and me, and the board. We handle the fundraising. Let me actually write this down, it's very useful. Master LLC. We handle the fundraising and capital aggregation. Because we're syndicate partners, right? We also handle the legal compliance and structuring. I can't be asked right now, so I'm just going to say the rest. We handle deal sourcing and execution. We help the funds of the fund flow to and from the properties. We collect fees and manage and performance, which is also known as the promote of the properties. The sub LLCs, which is this one. Oh no, sorry. The sub LLCs. This is not really. It's not a direct sub LLC, right? There's the sub LLCs are these, which is the property ones, and I guess you can count as, it's not really important, but the main sub LLCs is each one of these, right? And what this does is the single purpose. Each one of these single purpose ones, they use just once, like disposable ones, meaning each one is solely existing to hold and operate a specific piece of real estate. These are 100% owned by this fund vehicle and the master LLC. And each one is they hold title to the asset. They contain all the revenue, expenses, and liabilities for that particular asset. and these are all isolated from each other. Meaning that if one property fails to or encounters a legal issue, it doesn't affect others, as I've just mentioned before. So how do these investors participate? They don't receive actual ownership units or voting rights in the master LLC or the sub LLC. They have no rights over that. Instead, they enter into contract with the master LLC, which allocates them a defined economic interest in the sub LLC related to the deal that they're participating in. Simple stuff. The investor is entitled to a proportional share of the profits, right? The profits being rent income, right? That is a per calendar basis, sale proceeds, and much more. It's a lot of ways. The investment is legally documented, it's enforceable and tied to the performance of that specific asset. The structure, this whole structure, right, avoids investor entanglement in basically day-to-day management or legal responsibility for that business. They just pool money, we manage it, we give them stable income throughout the holding period, which is 5 to 7 years, and happy days. Everyone wins, everyone gets a profit. We beat S&P 500 returns, which is fucking, it's a good point to make actually. We beat S&P 500 return rates. That's a good marketing point. Okay, let's just give a quick example. We'll use that 10 million equity raise as an example from before. Let's say one investor, let's call him Mark. He's an investor and he puts 1 million into this equity pool. Why can I not write? I need to take my time. Right? He will earn, as a result of this, a 10% of the economic rights. In that sub... Wait, let me check. Yes, sorry, my mind just went. Yeah, earns 10% of the economic rights in that sub LLC formed. Formed to buy and manage property. Oh my god, I can't write. Manage property. I'm so hungry. Oh my god. I gotta drink some more water. Also, he receives a contract issued by the master LLC, which outlines their entitlement. Holy fuck, that's like unintelligible. Sorry. He also receives 10% of the distributed rental profits. Basically, all of this gets 10% of it. Exit sale proceeds. So when exit comes, he gets 10% of that. He also gets any other cash flows derived from that specific assets. So actually, it's better if he says, or if it says what he is investing in. So property, Dallas. Don't know why I did a drawing, but it's okay. This is sub LLC 1. Not like the order matters, but just for clarity. So he will get 10% of all the rent income, or let's say all profits made from this sub LLC, along with the exit sale, right? This is this is after any fees and agreed upon splits, which is it's all outlined in the contract. It's not equity in a legal shareholding sense, which keeps governance and liability centralized with the principles. It like how do you mean? It functions like it mirrors equity participation in terms of financial benefit with full 100% protection and clarity for both sides. So if we think back to why the structure matters, every single property on its own, like it functions on its own, both legally and financially. The master LLC, which is Atlas, remains agile, it remains focused on management, it remains focused on expansion. Investors have a clean, direct, and limited exposure to a single asset, but they have full transparency. They know where they're putting their money into these properties. Returns are distributed based on actual participation and not arbitrary allocations. I'm so hungry, holy fuck. It's just the backbone of how we maintain control, but we honor those investor rights and scale asset ownership without exposing the whole enterprise to any unnecessary risk. A major advantage of this model lies in how and where we structure our legal entities, especially for tax purposes. We don't just pick any US state to register our master LLC. We choose jurisdictions with minimal or no state level taxes, such as Wyoming, Florida, etc. They have very low, state level tax, low state level tax. This is why we registered Atlas in Wyoming, just for those reasons. And we don't do it in, say, like New York or whatever. This reduces overhead. What can I write this? Reduces overhead, up net returns, which is very good. The master LLC is formed in, if we say Wyoming, there's no state sales tax, sorry. It's known for strong asset protection and low regulatory friction. We also consider Montana, which is also free of sales tax, with also benefits in terms of privacy and operational cost. Efficiency, sorry. Let's see. We also have to consider the federal taxation, which is unavailable. Unavailable, which is 21% corporate rate. We can select Wyoming or states with very low state level taxes. However, we cannot escape this flat 21% corporate income tax rate. Say if our LLC is LLC is taxed and formed as a C Corp, which is sometimes used for reinvestment strategy or entity stacking. Even when we are treated as a pass-through entity like an S Corp or a partnership, there's still tax exposure at the individual investor level, right? Depending on our residency and personal structure. Either way, it's critical and important to minimize the taxable base through these deductions. So, more on tax engineering, which is a long fucking topic, but it works to the investor's benefit. We have a CCA, which is capital cost allowance, and this is not an abbreviation, right? Cost segregation studies. So, fuck's sake, I'm not even gonna write this shit. Basically, it's an advanced IRS approved method that dissects the building, right, this, into specific component with shorter useful lives. Basically, it doesn't reduce tax overall. It makes it basically, inside this building, we can basically separate it into different components. So fixtures, carpets, appliances can be depreciated over 5 years. That brings us more income than if we had the whole building to itself. Does that make sense? And we can also separate the landscaping, driveways, fences over 15 years, and the standard building shell over 30 or 27 years, which is the set rate, 27.5, or over 39 years, which is commercial. If we separate it, we can get the taxed income from fixtures quicker than if we was to tax everything at one rate, basically. We reallocate these components and front load depreciation. Sorry. Speaking when you're tired and hungry is not an easy job, but I'm gonna power through this. This also increases deductions in early years and significantly boosts after-tax cash flow, which is very fucking useful. And there's an example that... Actually, let's use this $10 million acquisition example, right? We have a traditional depreciation... Let me lay back. I'm just gonna talk... I'm not even gonna write, because it's too long. A traditional depreciation model might allow 250 to 300k in write-offs per year, but if you have a proper cost segregation study, we can increase that to 700k to $1 million per year for the first 5 years because we separated, right? As I said before with the landscaping, etc. This means that even if the property is earning 800k a year in net operating income, which is NOI, there's a very, very important acronym. Net operating income. We might report only, say, a fraction of that as taxable income and keep the rest without tax, which is really fucking useful. But in the end, it slowly, that taxable income slowly decreases, right? As I said before, it doesn't decrease the overall amount of taxable income. It stays the same. We're just getting those taxable income reported quicker. We get all the real cash flow, but the fair or reduced tax payments legally and effectively. So why does this matter for investors? Every dollar saved on taxes is another dollar that can be reinvested into future deals or distributed as profit, or even used to strengthen the reserve pool. And because investors are passively participating through contractual economic interests, the benefit of these deductions flow through to their reported income, which helps reduce their own tax liabilities if it's structured properly on their side. So basically, we don't just buy property, we structure it to perform better after tax, because that's where the real returns are won. It's not just what the property earns, it's what we keep, and every single dollar that we save, that's what counts, right? And we raise capital which is all equity and no leverage, which is another important point. We do not use loans, we don't use debt, we don't use traditional debt anyway. Traditional debt. We don't use debt, we don't use leverage. It's purely 100% equity. So there's no mortgages, no third-party liens, no whatever. This is 100% equity-driven model. So a standard raise might be $10 million targeted at liquidity partners or capital partners, and these are high net worth individuals or family offices like SFOs, MFOs, right? These are single family, multi-family offices for basically investors or very rich individuals that have no time to be managing all this real estate. That's why we exist. These are people with liquid cash, by the way, or access to substantial personal lines of credit, but that's for them to deal with on the other side, which is which I'll put my cap on. My hair's too fucking long. So we just go for it. Saves time. Saves hands-on effort too. Lines of credit. Do you want to go over that? No, I don't. I'm gonna skip this. No. Let me see. What do I need to go over? I have notes here that reference notes that I had to cover on this video. Don't want to do that. Over and over the acquisition fee. So these structures are fair. One sec, I have a message. Sorry, I don't know how to pause the recording, so I just have to reply. Okay, the splits we have with the investors, they're not arbitrary, right? They're made and engineered in a way that they ensure principals are paid immediately for early work, which can take months of full-time effort before we even close a single deal, and we make sure that returns for investors are still exceptional, even after fees. We align long-term incentives. We only make real money when the project performs. That's what I mean. It's equity driven and performance driven. We earn however much we make for them. And even though we are not classified legally as a fund, the way we compare to hedge funds is that a typical hedge fund might offer 8% of annualized return, and they usually use a 80-20-2 structure, which means 2% for management fee and a 20% carry. And under us, you kind of have obviously it depends deal by deal, on a per deal basis, we can offer 85 to 15-3 structure, which is like delivering a 12% plus net return because we don't use leverage and we don't lose money to interest payments. That's 50% high returns. 50% with comparable fee structures plus real asset backing and no exposure to derivatives, equities, or market volatility. Right. Very sustainable. Upfront fees are critical to keeping principals focused. And real estate deals, especially high value ones like what we handle, they take time to structure. It takes time to underwrite. It takes time to negotiate. It takes time to close. Without income during this phase, most operators are forced to cut corners or overextend on leverage or abandon long-term alignments in favor of quick flips. That's how we differentiate ourselves. God, I need to eat next time. Let me drink. Ours, our fee structures allow us to build a professional and responsive and high-performing operation. We don't rely on short-term wins. We hold assets for 5 to 7 years, as I mentioned, to stay alive. It's a model built for resilience, and we need to stay consistent. We have to be sustainable, and we're not a one-trick pony. We don't rely on one lucky deal, right? So on the same example of a $10 million capital raise, if we have a 2%, let's do 80-20-5. Let's do 2, because that's the average. 2% acquisition fee. That is 200k, and that is paid to principals, like 100k each for me and Parish if it was 2 of us only. And 9.8 million, where does that go? That is deployable capital after upfront fee, which is the 200k. Right, this handles actually, let me go over the others first so it's more clear. We have 8.5 million for property purchase. I haven't recorded a long video like this in so long, so I need to up my speaking skills, but Just give me a few videos and I'll be back in my prime. We also have a number above, what's the math? 1.3 million for a reserve. This goes to like CapEx, which is capital expenditure, operations, or contingency. So this deployable capital funds it doesn't fund the property purchase. It's basically 9.8 minus 8.5, whatever that is. That is for the management and stuff. Whatever you need to renovate the buildings or the project. That's how it works. And what else? There's a lot of stats in the notes that I just can't be asked covering, I'm not gonna lie. Another important point is that we are not financial advisors by design. Right? We are not registered as financial advisors. We deliberately avoid operating as such. It's not a loophole, it's just a strategy that underpins the whole entire framework to protect both us and our investors. Right? If we register as a financial advisor, we have highly restricted investment options. The SEC is on our ass. There's high regulatory overhead, there's slower decision making, there's lower agility, there's reduced investor returns. And that is a pain in the ass. So in contrast to this, we position ourselves as transactional principals, general partners. I said we wasn't general partners before, but we operate as such. You know? Basically, this gives us more return. There's higher clarity, clearer incentives, faster, more agile decisions, custom deal structuring. We can shape each opportunity around the needs of the deal and not a legal framework. Got another message. Sorry. Okay, no. Okay, so what it means for an investor is that we're not telling you how you allocate your entire portfolio. We're not offering you advice on insurance, retirement planning, diversifying your assets. We're just here to say, look, here's your specific deal in this specific structure with defined terms. If you like it, cool, you can participate. If not, you can fuck off. That's it. It's a partnership. It's not a managed account. You're not hiring us to manage your money. You're working with us to own a piece of real estate. You know, a piece of real asset under terms that are already tested, optimized towards long-term wealth creation. We're wealth partners at the end of the day. This is how we maintain flexibility, transparency, performance, without crossing into this financial advisory territory. It's not just legal precision, it's intentional design that gives everyone a better outcome. Right. And let's see, what else? Building ecosystem, I'm just gonna skip a bunch of sessions because this video is already too long. So why does this work? What's the psychology behind this? As I said before, MFOs, SFOs, family offices, they are our target investors because they're time poor, right? They don't want to handle deals directly. They're returns focused. They'll gladly give us 20% if we outperform hedge funds. And they always keep the majority stake, of course. They're risk averse, so they love real estate, but they hate the debt and drama. So we give exactly that. A real estate ownership without debt or effort, wrapped in the structure that avoids regulation and delivers a more superior yield, right? It's very high yield for them. That's why they invest. That's why they reinvest. That's why they don't flinch at 20% carries or 5% upfront fees. That's like nothing in the grand scheme of things, because even after all of that, they're still making more than they would anywhere else. We beat competitors by a fucking large margin too. So what they would do is, what we would do is with this master LLC, we will set up bank accounts separate, and set up a legal infrastructure. We build our deal deck on our capital raise blueprint. We line up our investors. We identify property, source property from sub LLC, acquire those properties. Then we hire or launch supporting service arms like property management. Which we can also do. Sorry, it can also be a subsidiary of Atlas. Our own property management, or we can outsource that to someone else, or under our own brand. We hire people that renovate and contract, which, as that. We hire accountants, legal bodies. So why did I say legal bodies? Like, I'm tripping, bro. What the fuck am I saying? We had accounting / legal people, which is, we bring it in-house. So under Alice. So that's a whole ecosystem, right? And that's how we operate. I'm trying to look at this. Yeah, that's pretty much what I've explained on the this commercial. I'm gonna stop there because I need to fucking eat, drink, piss, sleep. But yeah, hopefully that explained everything. There's more on, there's a clear and more in-depth metrics outlined in our site, which is atlasaugtus.com. Go there, look at the few pages. We have a SDR/LTR platform launching, or we have launched, but we're going to relaunch that soon. It's covered on the website, but I will cover that again in the video when I'm actually energized, I've eaten, and I can speak and write properly. Whoa, my chest. But apart from that, that was it. Hope you learned a lot from that, and yeah, goodbye.